For decades, sailors along this coast told the same story. A lighthouse keeper, his family, and a night the snakes came through the windows. The story may not be true. What's on this island is real enough that nobody has been allowed to set foot on it since. These dramatic tales grew within nearby fishing communities where locals also spoke of a fisherman who landed to gather bananas only to be bitten and bleed to death on his boat. Yet Brazilian Navy archives reveal a quieter history. When the lighthouse was automated in the 1920s, the keepers simply departed, leaving no record of fatal attacks. While these stories remain persistent pieces of coastal folklore, they are unsupported by official documents. The verified record of physical isolation is what defines the island's history. The documented history of human presence on the island began in 1909, when the Brazilian Navy erected a 12-meter stone lighthouse on its highest summit. This beacon was built to warn passing vessels of the hazardous reefs and rocky shoals surrounding the island. For 15 years, starting in 1910, a small crew of lighthouse keepers lived on this isolated outpost, maintaining the light manually. Their presence on the island was a matter of routine maritime service, a quiet and orderly operation recorded in naval logs long before the station was automated. This remote outpost is Ilha da Queimada Grande. It sits in the Atlantic Ocean, roughly 33 kilometers off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil. From the mainland town of Itanhaém, the island appears as a faint, dark hump on the horizon, isolated by vast open water. Covering just 43 hectares of steep clay slopes and bare granite cliffs, its sheer physical separation is its defining characteristic. This distance has kept the island detached from the mainland's rapid development, preserving a distinct environment long before science began to look closely at its shores. This isolation began with a global shift in climate. At the end of the last ice age, approximately 11,000 years ago, melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise across the globe. As the Atlantic Ocean rose, it spilled over the low-lying valleys that once connected this granite ridge to the Brazilian mainland. Within a relatively short geological window, the land bridge vanished beneath the water, turning what was once a coastal hill into a completely sealed ecological system. This physical split was absolute. From the moment the connection disappeared, the plants and animals trapped on the newly formed island were entirely cut off from the mainland gene pool. There was no path back, and no way for mainland species to cross the expanding stretch of ocean. This created a closed arena, where genetic drift and localized natural selection could operate without outside influence. In the mainland forests, species continued to interact, compete, and evolve alongside a shifting mix of predators and environmental changes. On the island, however, the survivors faced a very different reality. They were confined to just 43 hectares of land, forced to adapt to a fixed set of resources and a limited space. This single geological event serves as the ultimate turning point for the island's ecology. It set a new biological course, ensuring that any evolutionary changes occurring here would happen in total isolation, guided only by the specific pressures of this newly created environment. The chief survivor of this isolated world is Bothrops insularis, commonly known as the golden lancehead. This pit viper exists nowhere else on Earth. On the mainland, its close relatives hunt primarily on the forest floor, preying on small mammals. But on Queimada Grande, the complete absence of native land mammals forced a radical shift in behavior. To survive, the golden lancehead became an adept climber, expanding its hunting grounds upward into the forest canopy. In the dense, humid woodlands that cover the island's central valleys, these snakes spend much of their lives draped over branches, coiled in the low understory, or suspended high in the trees. This arboreal lifestyle allows them to target migratory birds that use the island as a temporary rest stop during their seasonal migrations. Yet the snakes remain highly versatile, also utilizing the leaf litter habitat on the ground to hunt lizards, frogs, and invertebrates when bird activity drops. Without mammalian competitors or natural predators, the population flourished. Modern surveys estimate that between 2,000 and 4,000 golden lanceheads inhabit the island. On a landmass of just 43 hectares, this translates to an incredibly high concentration of snakes, particularly within the forested zones. In these areas, researchers encounter an average of one snake for every few square meters. It is an ecosystem dominated entirely by a single predator, where almost every level of the forest, from the thick leaf litter to the highest branches, is occupied by a silent, watchful viper. Comparative toxicological studies from the Instituto Butantan show that this isolated life altered more than just the snake's climbing habits. Laboratory evaluations measuring the median lethal dose in mice indicate that the golden lancehead's venom is approximately 5 times more lethal than that of its mainland relative, the jararaca. This striking potency is documented scientific evidence rather than mythic exaggeration, and it remains a primary driver for ongoing biochemical research. To explain why such potent venom evolved, herpetologists from the University of Sao Paulo point to the specific demands of hunting in the canopy. On the mainland, a bitten mammal trail can be followed along the forest floor. On the island, a bitten bird can easily fly away and die lost over the ocean. Researchers hypothesize that this pressure, selected for a rapid-acting chemical profile that immobilizes avian prey almost instantly on the branch. Studies also suggest this toxicity shifts as the snakes age, with adult vipers exhibiting a more potent venom profile than juveniles. While these evolutionary mechanisms remain hypotheses with ongoing caveats, the measured chemical potency is undisputed. This molecular specialization is what draws research teams to the island under strict environmental permits, making the golden lancehead one of the most closely monitored species in South America. Researchers analyzed these complex proteins to identify potential pharmaceutical compounds, translating a feared evolutionary byproduct into an active subject of modern medicine. To protect this fragile evolutionary laboratory and keep the public safe from its residents, the Brazilian government designated Ilha da Queimada Grande an area of relevant ecological interest in 1985. Today, federal law strictly forbids public access. Casual visitation, tourism, and private landings are entirely illegal, with the Brazilian Navy enforcing the ban through regular coastal patrols. Any unauthorized landing is prosecuted as a federal environmental crime. For researchers, setting foot on the island requires navigating a rigorous permit process. Scientists must submit detailed proposals through the federal SIS Bio platform, which is managed by the Chico Mendes Institute for Biodiversity Conservation, or ICM Bio. The evaluation process is exceptionally thorough. Because a bite from a golden lancehead can be fatal, expeditions must meet strict safety protocols. Research teams are not permitted to land without a qualified physician on board and a prepared supply of specialized antivenom. Under federal guidelines, any study involving the island's genetic material, including its venom, must be officially registered to prevent unauthorized exploitation. Even the Navy's annual visits to maintain the automated lighthouse are conducted with military precision and medical precautions, ensuring the crew has immediate access to medical support. This dual-layered shield of military enforcement and conservation science ensures the island remains undisturbed. It serves as a reminder that the most effective way to preserve this rare, venomous ecosystem is to leave it to the quiet work of natural selection. To follow more scientific journeys into the world's most remote environments, subscribe. Today, the White Stone Tower stands as the sole monument to human presence on Queimada Grande. The keepers' quarters are empty, silent, and slowly being reclaimed by coastal vegetation. No human has lived on these steep slopes since the automation of the beacon in the 1920s. Instead, the modern lighthouse relies entirely on automated solar-powered systems to cast its warning light across the Atlantic. The only regular visitors are technicians from the Brazilian Navy's Lighthouse Command. Once a year, a naval vessel anchors off the rocky cliffs to land a specialized maintenance crew. These sailors inspect the solar arrays, service the battery banks, and test the light, ensuring the essential maritime safeguard continues to function without requiring a permanent human presence in this hazardous territory. Today, Queimada Grande remains a living laboratory, guarded not by laws, but by the evolutionary defenses that isolate it. In protecting this fragile sanctuary, we preserve a natural world completely untouched by our own. Subscribe to explore more of our planet's hidden wonders.